Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. And so this is really different than what we've had. Every single session we've had, we have literally had standing room only. So I figured it's three things. It's either people are concerned about the virus that's out there, or it's because I'm your speaker tonight, and no, I am not a physician. I do have a pretty big background in research and development and in physiology and anatomy, but I am not a physician. And then also, the third is there's just so much going on. And I thank you for sitting up front, because if you're in the back, we are going to expect you to dance. They were practicing earlier, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually glad I did not have a physician here that had to compete with that. So here's what we're going to be doing today. And I think of all the things you've heard and all the things that we've talked about, this particular session is going to make more sense to you than everything we've done, because I'm going to try to wrap it all up. How many of you know we've had some great speakers? We've had all physicians, one nurse practitioner, cover all these subjects, but do you not sometimes just feel overwhelmed? I mean, this is like a lot of information, right? So we're going to try to narrow it down just to give you what I call cliff notes, and we're going to do a lot of Q&A, so hopefully that will really help. I do have, I believe, 6 or 7 of the end of Alzheimer's books back there. If you're really serious about what you've heard, I really recommend you get them. We're not allowed to sell here, so you just have to do a donation of $17, which is actual cost. It's actually a little less than cost when you count the tax in. So we do have those back there. We have some resources, and Dr. Koshel, which many of you have heard, has something really exciting. So here's what's really sad. The people that didn't make it today are probably not going to hear about what he's offering. So it's really, really exciting. So I'm just going to briefly go over everything we've talked about, and then I think I'm going to do something a little different, because a lot of times we wait till the very end for Q&A. And I think after every segment, we're going to open it up for some Q&A. If you're like me, so you can remember what it was you had a question, unless you brought paper and pen with you. So in our first session that we had, I actually did the first session, and we discussed what the situation here is in the United States. You know, billions and billions of dollars. Those that just came in, we have food back there if you'd like to help yourself, all gluten-free. Billions and billions of dollars have been spent in this country in research. But this is what's interesting. 99.6% have been total failures and never even made it out of testing. 99.6. Do you realize that a new drug has not been approved since 2003? Since 2003. Now, I want you just to think about this. How many things have you seen technically in the medical field that have changed dramatically? Cancer being one of them. You know, they're doing a lot of robotic and, you know, really treating very specifically. We've seen some tremendous improvements in medicine, and yet here we are with absolutely, if you listen to the medical field, no hope whatsoever. It's not true. There is hope. The current drugs are ineffective. This is proven research. They are ineffective in stopping or delaying the disease. They will not cure it. They will not. In fact, only 50% who actually take the drugs available does it even work for them.
What disease?
Alzheimer's.
Oh.
You may be in the wrong room. You may think this is the St. Patrick's Day party. I am so sorry. Enjoy the food and go dance. You forgot. I like your sense of humor. This disease has literally defeated top scientists, top researchers. I mean, everybody in this country. And there's a reason for that. It's because the hypothesis has been the amyloid protein. If we could just get to what that amyloid protein and change it. So almost all of the research until very, very recently is going down that road. Now, I don't know about you, but I was always told doing the same thing over and over and getting the same results was insanity. You would think somebody would go, whoa, wait a minute. This is unbelievable, because Alzheimer's, if you've been attending very many of these sessions, is not a one drug solution and will never be. Dr. Bredesen tells you he does not believe there will ever be a one drug treatment of this disease. And we're going to get into that. Alzheimer's disease strikes 1 in 9 Americans. 1 in 9. If you're 65 and older, that's 5.2 million people globally, and they are expecting this to be 160 million by 2050. Now think about that. That's 5.2 million now, and by 2050 they're expecting it to be over 160 million. And the irony is, I just read a research that they're expecting that that's incorrect. It's going to be over 200 million people. 21st century medicine brings together the very best of both the Western and the Eastern, and that is the approach that Dr. Bredesen does. This allows scientists, and this is really important, to go beyond, I feel like I should be dancing, beyond simply asking what the problem is to why the problem is. When you're looking at something like this, you don't care about the amyloid protein. You really should be caring about what started it, what caused it, and what we can do about it. Now, you guys know, and you've heard me say this before, if you have a car and you're having trouble and you go in and your mechanic takes and gets out his duct tape and he starts duct taping some things in your engine, he goes, hey, this should work for a while. And then he hands you a bill. How many of you guys would be a little upset, and women too, be a little upset about that? You don't need a duct tape solution, and that's what we have currently. You need to know what caused it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. It's all about the why. Now, most of you have probably heard my testimony, but there are some people here that are new, so bear with me. I'm just going to share my testimony again. 4 years ago, I was absolutely facing a health crisis. No question about it. On 2 separate fronts, actually 3 separate fronts. I had been taking care of my mother for 9 years who had Alzheimer's. I knew this disease inside, outside. One cannot take care of a parent for 9 years and not really know the parameters and all of the issues that are involved with that. But my mother and my father also had it. They actually did not even get their symptoms until they were 85. 85. I was 68. I was getting symptoms. I was absolutely terrified. I would be not telling you the truth if I wasn't. Because I'm looking at them at 85 and I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I was 68 and I was getting the symptoms. You're going, yeah, forgetting your keys. This was not about forgetting your keys. I knew exactly the symptoms I had because I had researched and researched and researched. And I had seen what the drugs did and mostly what they did not do in this country. So this was not about forgetting your keys, using words incorrectly. I'm a voracious reader. The last year before I made some changes, I could not read one book. Oh, I could physically read it. I just couldn't absorb it. I couldn't remember what I was reading. I was repeating myself. Oh, now we all repeat. But especially if it's your kids, you want to make sure they're listening to you because they rarely do. They only hear 3 or 4 words you're saying, right? So, but I was repeating over and over the same information, using words incorrectly that had the same letters, but did not have the same meaning. I could not read. I was really struggling with learning new things. And I decided to get testing. And I was diagnosed with MCI, which is mild cognitive impairment. And I was absolutely terrified. Because I'm going, are you kidding me? I'm 68 years old. I have 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and a great-grandchild. When am I going to forget their names? I saw what happened absolutely awful. So I started to do some research in Europe. I was actually trained in Europe as a massage therapist and as an esthetician, and they're very holistic, and their whole approach to healthcare is very different than it is here. So I started checking some things out, and I actually came across a research that really just blew me away. If you decide you would like a copy, it's 22 pages and it's pretty technical because it is medical research. But what it said is, what started amyloid protein from literally starting to fold over and destroy the cells in your brain? And what started the tau? Think a tau is like on a neurotransmitter. I call it like a turtle shell. Okay, that turtle shell is what protects the turtle, right? Well, that's what tau does. And you want that tau to be really strong, not disintegrate, not start tangling up. What actually started that? Something started it. Could it be vasomotion? Now, I've been researching a long time, and my husband gets very nervous because he is in the medical field, and he says, I know way more than I have any business knowing. But I didn't know what vasomotion was, so I kind of checked out vasomotion to see actually what it was. And when I checked it out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This made total sense to me. And the whole idea of what this research literally concluded was not enough oxygen, not enough blood circulation is getting to the brain, period. If you do not have enough oxygen and you do not have enough circulation getting to the brain, to be very honest, what you're doing is not even going to work. You can eat all the organic food and spinach and kale, and you can take all the supplements recommended, but the truth is, if it can't even get into the cell, what good does it do? It's like being really poor and keeping your door closed, and you've got people on the outside with food for you. Well, it doesn't matter that the food is just there on the outside. If you don't open your door and bring it in, it doesn't make any difference, does it? And that's exactly, that whole concept made sense to me. So I went ahead and I did Google it. I did come up with a European medical device that did exactly that, and that started it. Within about between 3 and 3.5 months, every symptom I had was gone. Every symptom. I couldn't even talk about it. Do you know why? I was really worried. What if this is temporary? What if it comes back? I didn't talk to my children. None of my children knew. But as you all know, children talk behind your back. So they're all talking to each other. What's going on with mom? Surely she couldn't be getting Alzheimer's like this young. I mean, Mimi and Papa were, like 85 and, she's 68. So they were talking, and then they even saw a difference. I didn't think they knew. I started retreating. I started backing off from some things I did socially. I backed off from friends because I knew if I had a very long conversation with you over lunch, you were going to know that something was amiss. I knew that. And I just did not want to go in that direction. So it was probably about 5 months before I actually started talking about it because it kept getting better and better. Now, some of you know, my husband graduated from Vanderbilt, and so he did a lot of allopathic training, not holistic, and so his comment was, that's hippie voodoo. He wouldn't even acknowledge it for 3 months. And I'm like, I don't care if it is hippie voodoo, if it works. Where do I have to go? And if any of you have a friend, a neighbor, yourself, a spouse, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Where else did I have to go? I had nowhere else to go. So about 3.5 months afterwards, I'm in the kitchen and I'm doing dishes, and he comes in behind me. And as most men, they really hate to admit that their wife is right. Okay, that's a really sore point. He comes in and he puts his arms around me and he goes, I told you that thing better walk on water, and it does. I have my wife back. So that was a real sentimental thing for him. So the first thing we are going to talk about, we're going to be talking about all the speakers in here. And the first one is on circulation. And Dr. Koschel, if you were here, heard it. By the way, if you did not get all of the completed notes from all of our speakers, you can go to the back and pick those up. We just charge $5, which does not even cover the printing cost. And you get notes for all 6 of the sessions. And if you want to purchase one, we have some new ones back there. And Elaine, in the new ones, the last 2 are not in there, just so you know. So it's $5 if you want them, and if you don't, that's fine too. So Dr. Koshel talked to us all about circulation, and he told us circulation is just about everything. If you can't get blood flow through your body, it's a problem. And I'm going to just very briefly explain how that works. So you know you have trillions of cells in your body, right? Trillions of cells in your body. And every cell has at least 1 mitochondria. It's your power engines, like the engine in your car. Okay, and that particular mitochondria or more, some of them have a lot of mitochondria, that is literally what runs the DNA program in that cell. But, just like your motor in your car, takes 2 things to run that engine. You have to have decent food because your body's going to pull electrons off of that good food. I don't think Twinkies has electrons. It's going to pull the electrons off of that food, and then it's going to take the oxygen, and both of those must get into the cell, and that's literally what's powering your mitochondria. If your mitochondria, they need to be your best friends. If they are working and you're eating decent and you're doing a lot of other things, it is a game changer for your health, period. So you can do all these things, but if you cannot get blood circulation into the cell, doesn't matter what you're eating, can't get enough electrons, can't get enough oxygen, can't run the engine. So that's part of the situation, but there is another one. You know by your car, if you don't get enough oil in it, if you're not getting enough water in, all the things it needs, yeah, your car is going to still run, but what's it going to do? It's going to start to putter, right? And, it's going to start and stop and, just not work efficiently. And that's exactly what happens with your mitochondria. If it can't get enough of the electrons off of the food, if it can't get enough oxygen into the cell to run it, it's just going to be a very sluggish motor. And you know what that produces? It means the toxins, just like your muffler, where you've got to get the toxin out right of the car, all the carbon dioxide, you've got to get it out of the car because that's the byproduct of your engine. Same thing with your mitochondria. It has to get the toxins out, the carbon dioxide, the carbolic acid, the lactic acid. If it doesn't have enough oomph to the engine, it can't get out. Or some of it will get out, but not all of it, and that's what starts to create inflammation. How many of you know 10 years ago, those words never reached the lips of your physician? You know, it's true. You never heard your doctor talk, oh my dear, you have this issue. Well, this is about inflammation. You did not hear that. We now know, even the science and the medical community, inflammation is where almost all disease starts. You've got to get rid of the inflammation. And when we get into diet, you're going to see where that plays also a very big part. So you get that toxin trapped in the cell, you get inflammation, and now the cell is not working the way it should. And then its next cell is doing the same thing, and the next. You see, you can go, well, I'm pretty healthy. My labs look pretty good, and I don't have any symptoms. No, you don't see symptoms at a cellular level. You're lucky if usually you don't see them at a tissue level. You're lucky if you see them at an organ level, is usually when you'll see them, or at a system level. And then what do? Where do you go when you have symptoms? You go to your physician, that's right, because you have symptoms. Unfortunately, that's not really the time to go, because now you have some full-blown disease going on, and that's got to be backtracked, or it's going to be black duct tape, just duct tape it, and let's see how long we can mask the symptoms. So a lot of times they'll give you medicine, and that's going to take away the heartburn that you have, and then, oh, I'm so sorry, it really dried your mouth and eyes out. Oh, here's a prescription for that. That will help with that. And then you take that, and then, oh my gosh, now I'm getting constipation. or I'm getting diarrhea, and you can get another tablet for that. My husband has seen patients who are on 34 and 35 meds. 34 or 35 meds. And you think that's rare? Not near as much as you think. You would be absolutely surprised. So what we're talking about with this disease called Alzheimer's, not the party next door, what we're talking about with this disease is that if you can get down to the root, what's causing it, you can fix it. Well, how can you say that? Because your body was created perfectly, and it was created and designed to heal itself if you give it what it needs. You have to give it what it needs for it to be able to heal itself. But you were absolutely designed to heal itself. So I'm sure you can probably tell that I do not have very many symptoms of Alzheimer's. My last PET scan looked really, really good. But I realized that just doing circulation for me was not enough. Because I decided when I moved, I've only lived here a couple years, and I decided to have genetic testing done. What if I have a higher risk than most people? And so I did have my genetics tested, and I do have double APOE4s. What that means is I have the highest risk of Alzheimer's before I'm 80. You will hear different researchers, but it's been as high as 80% risk of developing Alzheimer's. And I absolutely believe that's not going to happen, because I now know that's how I got into Dr. Bredesen's book. I had gone to a seminar, I had heard him speak, I got the book, I was like, oh my gosh. So has this been some changes in my life? I would be lying to you if I did not tell you that I've had to make some changes, and some changes that might not have been as comfortable as I'd like. For example, I ate very healthy, but I've had to take and go to extremes because I do have those double genes. In fact, what's interesting is I actually had to sign that I would have 6 weeks of counseling when I had my genes tested. Counseling. Do you know why? It's a pretty high percentage when someone finds out they have a double APOE4, they commit suicide, they leave a spouse, but more likely the spouse leaves them. So they did not know what to do with me. They dismissed me after 3 weeks and told me I couldn't come back. I couldn't do any more counseling because they were sure that I was queen of denial. I was not queen of denial. You cannot take care of a parent for 9 years and not know exactly what this disease does. It's just that I had a different philosophy. I believed that I could backtrack, and it was going to be a lot harder for me. Now, most of you are not going to have that gene, but these are still some things you can implement to prevent it. If you have a parent or 2 parents that have had it, or you have it running in your family, you want to be even more concerned, because you heard the numbers that I told you. This is going to be a major, major issue. I will be honest, I'd rather be in a wheelchair than lose my mind. One of my greatest fears, and everybody laughs about it, it's the truth, is that I'm going to end up in a nursing home and I won't have anybody that will change my depends. And I'm not even going to have the mental clarity to ask for it. So you can go, well, that's pretty funny. Well, it's not. I've done a lot of volunteer in nursing homes. It's not funny. You want to see the reality of life? Go in and volunteer, and it's going to change your whole perspective. I feel that by this program, I can keep you out of a nursing home, probably for a long time, and maybe permanently. If you don't have your mind, you have nothing. Absolutely nothing. Do you know, for the first time, Alzheimer's is now the biggest scare in our generation? Bigger than cancer, bigger than heart. Do you know why? Because if you have heart issues, the heart industry has really done some amazing technical things that can really help. If you have cancer, we have a lot of new methods of things that you can do, and you all know people who have lived that have had cancer, right? But as Dr. Bredesen says, nobody knows somebody who's outlived Alzheimer's until now. So circulation is one of the biggest things, is you want to make sure you can get it. And there's multiple ways you can do that. Yes, I did use a device that, really made a difference, but you also can become very, very physically active. You're not going to produce a lot, but you can produce enough to be effective. So if you can do aerobics 5-6 times a week, or anybody in here who cycles, if you can really do a lot of exercise, that's going to help to increase oxygen. That's one of the reasons they tell you to stay active. You can really do a lot of things with your mind to really help to keep it really active. We're really fortunate here in the villages. Do you know one reason there's such a high energy level here? We socialize. Even if there's a virus going on. We'll just wear a mask and go to the squares and dance, right? So we stay really social. We really like to stay really active, and those things can really help. So there are multiple ways that you can keep your circulation going, and it is really, really important as somebody who has poor circulation. So I'm going to stop right now and just open it up for a few questions of something that you really would like to know about circulation. And then we'll get on to the next subject, which is bioidentical hormones. Okay, so questions, anything? Yes?
You talked about a machine. Could you elaborate on what machine and what it was?
We have a resource table back there with multiple resources. So if you want to go back, we do have literature. Anybody back there can help you with it. It is a European medical device, and it is specifically for circulation. So you can go back and check that out. Yes?
Linda, what kind of protocol did you use on yourself with the Beamer?
Well, actually, nobody gave me a protocol, and which now I have. So what I actually use now is what we call Program 1. And there's multiple reasons I do that. But I didn't even know what to do, so I wasn't even, to be honest, using probably the very best numbers, intensity on it. But every day I had it on my head, every day.
Well, tell me about, did you use it like once a day, twice a day, 10 minutes?
Twice a day, and it's an 8-minute session. So 8 minutes in the morning, 8 minutes at night, and I had it on. And that alone, we now know there's even some better things to do, but that alone was pretty effective for me.
You actually used the strap around the
I
hip,
did.
and then you laid on the coil pad.
Yes. So I had full circulation to my entire body, which does improve your circulation and your oxygen level 30%, and that lasts 12 to 14 hours. And I had no choice, because I didn't tell you the other part of the health crisis, and that was that I was 110 pounds overweight, and I was on a walker. So I had been under tremendous stress, lots of things that happened, never been overweight in my entire life up until that point. And so the other thing that helped me besides that was it took away all of my pain. And because of all of my pain, I was in pain every day, 8 or 9, tremendous. I had a hip replaced, a knee replaced, thinking if I could just get rid of the pain, I could physically move, because I ate well and I had a very healthy lifestyle. I don't smoke. I rarely have a glass of wine. I mean, I was eating food, the right food. I'm a big supplement person. But when you're in a lot of pain, I love it when, if you go to the doctor and he goes, well, you just need to move. You need to exercise. You're going, are you kidding me? I'm on a walker. It took everything I had just to barely keep my house up and take care of my mom. Everything I have. And I have a high pain tolerance. So in about 3 months, I lost all of my pain. And then very slowly, I was able to start walking. So I lost 50 pounds the first year and 51 pounds the second. I didn't do anything different. I didn't change my diet. My supplements and everything was still the same at that point. But guess what? If you got a lot of energy, you've got a lot of focus, and you're not in pain, you can start moving. So it was a slow weight loss, but that really made a big difference for me. And I will tell you, one of the things, back to what you were saying, I had read a research that shows if you're obese, it increases your risk for Alzheimer's 55%. I was obese. I didn't even know at the time I had a double APOE4, but the 55% terrified me. And I really did not want to have bariatric surgery, because I was very uncomfortable with some of the research with that. So all of those things, really kind of triggered in. Did that answer your question, or did I just go completely off with the rabbit over here? Okay, yes?
How
can you get more oxygen?
There are
Besides
several.
exercise?
Well, besides exercise or besides using a device that helps you, there are hyperbaric chambers. They're very expensive. It runs, here in the villages, it's running about $150 a session.
You have to have a doctor's order to use?
You know, I don't think so, because where I actually go, I go to a holistic practice. My nurse practitioner has one, and of course they're putting them in a lot of different places. My biggest concern with the hyperbaric chambers, they actually use them a lot for cancer, because cancer does not grow well at all in a high oxygen state, because that's very alkaline when you're high in oxygen, which is what you want. So they will use it for cancer treatment because a lot of oxygen will really kill the cancer cells. I'm claustrophobic. So being in the machine alone, I mean, I really struggle with MRIs. So being in the machine alone would have been an issue for me. So you're blowing in a lot of oxygen. It only lasts about 4 to 5 hours at the most. But that is another way. You need to somehow stay physically active. It's pretty hard to, you know, I mean, you can't put an oxygen mask on, you know, all day. So, but exercising does help. It does really make a difference. Besides strengthening your core, which is really important, it does help. And the other thing you can do is, especially if you cannot exercise, is very deep breathing. And there's some excellent books out on there how you can actually use your own system and do a lot of very deep breathing to really help to bring a lot of oxygen into your body. Most of us do not. We do really shallow breathing all the time, so we're not ever getting the amount of oxygen we need. Any other questions? Yes?
You're gonna say lots of water, right? Drink lots of water?
Yes?
Okay, that was the easy one. The harder one is, should we have filters in our homes? Does that make any difference, whether we have a filtered water home or just drinking the water?
Absolutely. And this doesn't have to be expensive. I don't know about all of you, but I like to find the most effective for the least amount of money. That's just kind of the way I was brought up. I'm Swiss German, okay? So you always want your money to go to, you know, a really good place. Zero water is very inexpensive and it's very effective. I test my water all the time. It sits on my counter. I do zero water on all my herbs and all of my plants, because I have a vertical garden, and so I do all of that. I don't use the water. And when you test the water, my water tested 170 this week when I checked it. My zero water, and for toxic things in it, and my zero water is at 0. Yeah, so it's inexpensive. So, you know, I'm not against whole house. You know, they're wonderful, but if you're on a tighter budget or that's just not an area you want, I think that zero water is probably the best for the least amount of money. Does that help? Yes.
Do you sleep with your windows open?
I do. She asked if I slept with my windows open. That is kind of part of my culture. As a little girl, I would go to my grandparents' house in the winter up north near Lake Erie, and all the windows were left. They lived in a big Victorian house. So there wasn't a lot of heat upstairs anyway, and they always had I can remember seriously waking up with snow on the foot of my bed. Not a lot of snow, but there was snow on the foot of my bed. They really believed in the fresh air. And when you live in a new home, you know that's really, really important, because they try to make our homes super, super tight, you know, because of energy, and it costs you less to heat and to air condition. But you have to realize the chemicals in your house, and I'm off on another subject that we're going to be covering, not good. So unless it's awful outside, my windows are open, and I just hope nobody tries to crawl in. I have dogs, that helps.
I know your address.
She knows my address. I'm not sure you can get into my windows with my dogs. So, any other questions?
What about the
Yes.
pH of the water?
The pH is really pretty important, but if you get the chemicals out, your pH is going to get a lot better. So pH is very important. Alkaline water, the pH is always great, and you can go to the health food store and actually buy alkaline drops and put in your water, and it does alkalize it, which is always a good thing to do.
Would the FEMA help with the deal?
Yes, it's not disease specific. It's literally, what it's doing is it's not healing you. It's only giving your body what it needs to heal itself at a cellular level. And the truth is, that's what all of us want to do, regardless of what direction we go. You want to be able to think of your body at a cellular level. Prevention and reverse, and that is absolutely huge. Any other questions?
Just
Yes.
quickly, you mentioned supplements that you
Yes.
take. Is there any supplements?
So she talked about supplements. We're gonna get into that. We have a whole thing on supplements. Any other questions? Yes.
I just had a whole house water filter and a purifier, and they have a zero water tank, but I'm not going to keep if somebody's interested.
Okay, so she said she has the zero water. If anybody's interested, raise your hand. It's the white-haired lady. Isn't that funny? We're all white-haired.
It's the guy who got without that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really funny because, my daughter called the other day and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I have some really old people in my villa area, and so I've been, I've made some soup for them." And she goes, "Mother, you are the old people." I'm like, I resent that. I may be 72, but I feel 50. Yes.
Using the zero though, we're not getting any nutrients, minerals, or anything from the water.
That's correct.
Oh, so then we have to take additional.
Well, and I do take supplements, so and to be honest, you're not getting enough from water anyway to be effective.
Okay.
Yeah. So to me, what she was asking is, what if you take all that out, isn't it a problem because you're not getting the minerals in the water? But the truth is, you're not getting enough minerals in the water to make a difference anyway. And I would rather not have the contaminants. I will tell you, so you could say, well, that's subjective on your part. No, ask all of my herbs and ask all of my vegetables that I grow. They grow like crazy because I use and on top of it, I do the beamer on my water, which makes it even with more oxygen in it. So it's pretty funny. Yes.
Isn't purified water versus spring water? Purified water has all the minerals removed from it, everything. Is that correct?
Yes.
Usually,
Usually,
so it's
yes.
worthless almost.
Well, it's still water,
Water.
right? But at least
has
it
no minerals.
there are some, but
Spring
mostly.
water still has all the.
Spring water does, however, it has fairly, if you check your bottles that you buy, the contaminants are pretty high. I was very disappointed, very disappointed. I was expecting better quality. There are some cities that their water has better, higher quality than what's in some of the bottles. But there's another thing with the bottles that makes me very nervous, and that is plastic. Because plastic absorbs, and it absorbs when it's heated. So my biggest question is, oh my gosh, how long have those bottles been sitting on that truck in all that heat? Now, if any of you don't believe that plastic absorbs, men, you probably won't get this. Women, who in their younger years when they were married put spaghetti in their plastic Tupperware container? What happens? It's red. Doesn't matter what you do. You can put chlorine, you can scrub it, it will never come off. So plastic it actually can go in and leak in, and it actually can come out too. So you're getting a lot of things that you really don't want. Yes? If it's BPA free, you're good. Yes, because it's been shown to be a carcinogen. So I just, I only drink out of glass or, I have stainless steel. In fact, I have a stainless steel in there that I drink.
Things up in the microwave.
Well, we haven't even got into the microwave. This is not what you came for, right? We didn't talk about the microwave, yes.
Just quickly, I don't know what zero water means.
That's the brand name. It's
Oh.
called Zero Water, and it
Buy
has
it?
you can go to Amazon,
Okay.
if you have Prime, they don't charge,
And it's in a plastic bottle?
No, it's in a BPA container, and it's about this long and about this high, and you just take your tap water, you pour it in, and then it takes a little bit for the filter to take it down, and then it's all purified.
Oh, so it's a purifier?
It is,
Oh.
but it's just inexpensive.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
real inexpensive way to start changing your health, one little thing at a time. And if I, through this whole thing tonight, if I get you to walk out with one thing, and that is, don't look at all these things we're gonna be talking about. As she was mentioning microwave, and then we're talking water. You know, we were on circulation, now we're on water. You know, all of these things. Here's the key. Do you realize that you could absolutely make huge difference in your health if you did one change a month? Just one. Just one. Do not overwhelm yourself. Why do most people, when they know something is not good or they know something is good, do not do it? Do you know what the reason is? It's overwhelming. Where do I start? We were not created, except for a few of you who might be OCD, we were not created to make all of these changes at once. You know, it's like, okay, so I'm gonna quit smoking, I'm gonna quit drinking, and I'm gonna go on a diet. Now, how many of you think that works? If it does, I don't wanna be anywhere near them. Because, and I tell you, they're gonna be in divorce court probably 15 days, because their spouse will not be able to handle it. They will be the meanest person on the entire face of the earth with one of those things, much less three. So, if nothing else, I would love you to think about that's 12 changes in a year. That can actually be significant. So the water, it's easy. It's inexpensive. You know, you just pour the water in, it does its thing. That's an easy thing to do. So, okay, any other questions?
Is water, like I drink a lot of ice water. Is ice water not good? Should we be
We're
drinking?
never gonna get through this. That's all right. She asked about ice water. No, it does not digest as well.
Okay.
Your stomach functions with all the acids in it much better at room temperature. I don't drink my water cold. It's not gonna kill you, okay? So if you're into the ice water, you know, don't sit there and get depressed and reach in your pocket for an anxiety pill or something you're sniffing. But it is a little bit better for digestion. And I'll tell you another thing while we're talking about water. You're much better off to not drink water prior to eating. Guess why? What do you think is going to happen if you drink water?
It dilutes your
Dance,
stomach
music?
acid.
Huh?
It dilutes your stomach.
It dilutes your acids and, yeah, your natural acids and stuff in the stomach. So it makes your digestion less effective. So you can drink it 30 minutes before, but as a general rule, I don't ever have, when I go to a restaurant, well, I'm not gonna drink their water anyway, but I don't have water with my meal. Yes?
When you get up in the morning, is it good to drink a quart of water the first thing?
A quart?
A quart.
I would love to have an x-ray of your bladder. A quart? Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? I have to sip my water all day. A cup causes me to go to the bathroom. So I will give you a hint. The very best, we're now into the nutrition area, but the very best thing in the world you can do, we talked about alkaline. I drink water, room temperature, but in the winter, I really like, of course, it's never winter here, but in the winter, I like it hot, and I have a organic Meyer lemon tree, and I put lemon in it. Lemon in your water first thing in the morning will help you, immediately turns you alkaline, which is awesome, and it just helps everything. Everything. It's one of the smartest things that you can do is to put a little lemon. Now, if you go lemon in water, are you kidding? Do you know how sour that is? Put a little stevia in it if you need to have it a little bit sweet. It's like drinking hot lemonade or, but it will alkaline your body. If any of you in here have had cancer, you ought to be doing that every flippin' single day. You want your body as alkaline as you can get it, period. Don't you want an environment where cancer doesn't grow well? And if you've had it once, that means your body has, a weakened immune system somewhere. So that's a great thing to do. Okay, did I answer one more question?
What do you think of airborne?
Of what?
Airborne.
Airborne.
I'll tell you what's a lot more effective. If I'm on an airplane, I don't use anything like that. I'm into essential oils, obviously European trained as a massage therapist, and I will put essential oils on my nose I like frankincense or myrrh or something that's really going to prevent a lot of bacteria from going in. So one of the things we are all concerned, and I will bring it up, is the virus. And unfortunately, the media, I believe, has just taken this completely out of control. It's my opinion only. You don't have to have that opinion. But I believe that they've taken it out of control. Do I feel it's serious? Well, of course I do. It is a serious issue. And it is probably even more serious of an issue for us because we're considered the elderly, the old, right? So, you know, they're saying if you're going on a cruise, you shouldn't go if you're old. Well, I'm going on a cruise Friday, taking grandkids. I have no concerns whatsoever. I can't say no concerns, but I happen to use a particular silver cloth that I love because I wipe everything down and it kills everything. I do not use chlorine wipes. I do not use Purell or antibiotic, the stuff that people put on their hands all the time. It kills the good and the bad. You need to use something that's not going to kill the good, okay? We need all the good. And it actually can change the microbiome in your stomach too. And we're going to get into that because that's a huge connection to Alzheimer's. So I have 30 minutes to do the next 5 sessions. I am in so much trouble here with you.
Where do you get the silver cloth?
I'll tell you about that later.
Okay.
It's just something I particularly like because it's
Is yours big enough to cut in half?
yeah, you can probably cut in half, but you can also get little tiny ones too. Okay, and silver is a natural antibacterial, and it doesn't change anything. It's just extremely effective. Okay, so let's talk about bioidenticals. So if you were here, you remember Greta, who is a nurse practitioner, and she specializes in bioidenticals. That happens to be the area I was a specialist in and taught for about 15, 16 years all over the country. So how many of us even think about our hormones affecting our brain? You don't think about that, do you? I mean, you think hormones, that's if you can't get pregnant or you want to have a baby, or, you know, men are very much aware of testosterone, you know, keep you manly, you know. That's what we think of hormones, and we don't realize hormones are everything. I can tell you right now that if you went to postmenopause ladies, how many of you have heard either you've experienced or your friends have said, oh my gosh, I have this brain fog. You know, it's just unbelievable. I can't think. I'm worried mentally. Am I coming down with, you know, Alzheimer's or cognitive issues? It's hormonal. You need to have your hormones balanced. And you go, yeah, but you know what? My physician has told me that it's not really important if you're not having babies anymore and, you know, you're at postmenopausal. Not true. Absolutely not true. So first of all, if you want to look good, okay, this is not about the health, we have to throw it in. If you want to look good, you keep your hormones balanced. And you go, well, don't they diminish? Yeah, they diminish, but not why you think they do. Your hormones were created to continue to work and work and work. But we have such environmental issues that it throws our hormone levels off tremendously. For example, why do you think prostate cancer is so prevalent once you hit 60, 65? This isn't like, oh, a guy here and a guy here. It's all over the place, all over the place. And the reason for that, and what's even worse, is because it can literally create and go into another hormone that creates cancer. So keeping your natural hormone balance is really important. Now, men, I'm going to talk to just you. First of all, it's great because men like to have their testosterone levels nice for multiple reasons I will not go into. But here's why it's really important that your wife be on it. If you want her to be nice, get her on bioidentical hormones because it affects you emotionally. How many of you have noticed if you've not had bioidentical hormones, you have no patience? You really lose patience. I have one brave person who raises their hand and a lovely husband who did not shake his hand. Now you just blew it by shaking your head. I was really going to reward you there. If your hormones are off, you can become witchy, bitchy. It's like the 7 dwarfs. You know, you're dry. I mean, we can just go on and on and on and on. So bioidentical hormones do not increase your risk for cancer. So that's a big issue. Now, if you've had cancer, you need to talk with somebody who really knows their bioidenticals, because there's some things you can do and not do. But the more you keep your natural hormones, by far it's tremendous help with osteoporosis, which is a huge issue for both women and men. So there's multiple things, and she talked about how important it is to be on bioidenticals, but the connection to the brain is absolutely there. When they take and look at the brain of somebody with Alzheimer's, their hormone levels are low. So I'm going to open it up because you probably have questions, but I probably have to limit them or we won't even get on to supplements and the gut brain. Yes?
I'm on my third year of hormone treatment after radiation treatment for prostate cancer.
Yes.
What's gonna happen to me?
You're on, when you say you're on hormone replacement,
Feminine hormone, estrogen of some sort.
oh, probably you'll start decorating the house. I'm just kidding, I'm kidding. But he is a good friend of mine, so he knows my weird sense of humor. That was not nice. I am no longer, he's taking me off of my list. If you get too much estrogen, you will develop breasts, and you will also develop weight. Excess estrogen will create right here in the middle. How many of you have noticed all these little boys that you see everywhere? Have you noticed most of them have breasts bigger than the girls, you know? And that's because a lot of the environment. You've got to keep them in balance. Not in balance takes you right into a high risk of cancer, period.
I was made aware of that when I started taking it.
Okay.
My concern is the impact on the brain. Is there something here that should be concerning?
Since you are my client, I will talk with you in depth about that. So you need to let me know and I'll come over and we'll talk individually about
Please
that.
repeat the questions because we cannot.
Well, his question was, he is on hormone replacement therapy because of his prostate. You had surgery?
No.
No?
Radiation.
Radiation, okay. And so he was wondering to know what is going to be the effect of that. So I will talk with you personally. In fact, if anybody has any personal questions about that, it's a little bit different with everybody, but I can give you some really good resources, and I can give you some pretty good information on that. Okay, yes?
Well, you talk about hormone replacement, which I hear is different than hormone balancing.
Right.
Because my physician just said, here, take this. So he didn't really run any tests to balance them.
So this is a perfect question she's asked. He just told her, what her question was, is her physician just said, here are some hormones, he never tested her.
Right. So how do we know what
Really?
the balance is, right?
I mean, I'd be like, are you kidding me? That would be like, I can't go there. Oh my gosh. First of all, this is not getting down to why. If you don't know exactly what they are, when we talk about hormone replacement, please understand I'm not talking chemical. I'm talking bioidentical, and that is a huge difference. Bioidentical means the molecular structure is exactly the same as your own body. Therefore, your body does not see it as a foreign object. It has no side effects. As long as it's balanced, you're not going to have a side effect. The biggest thing you have to know is, and the balance of these, not testing your blood levels is so bad because it has to be in balance. So here's what happens. You have women, really quick, you have 3 estrogens, E1, E2, and E3. So you have estrone, estradiol, and estriol. And you want, I call them the girls, so you want those hormones to balance out with progesterone. So anybody here ever have a boat? A boat. A boat. You ever drive a boat? Okay, so my husband built a pontoon boat. We'd never had a boat. So we're out on the lake and I'm like, I'm driving. Where's the brakes? He laughed. He has a boat. They have no brakes. Now the reason I'm telling you that is because that's exactly how hormones work with your body. If your estrogens are high and your progesterone is low, the bigger the change here, the higher your risk for cancer, period, or a lot of issues, a lot of issues. Your body was created in perfect balance called homeostasis. So your estrogens and your progesterone, they fluctuate, they don't stay the same, but they need, so estrogens are like the gas. They create what's called cellular proliferation. Big word. All it means is cells grow very, very quickly. So God in his wisdom created progesterone. They're your brakes. So it keeps the estrogens and the progesterone in balance. Now, if you are under a lot of stress, then what happens is your progesterone level is going to drop way down. And if your estrogens are up here and your progesterone is down here, I'm telling you, depending on your genetics, this is a problem. If you were younger, I would tell you this is what causes fibroid tumors. This is, which are almost never cancerous, but they cause problems. This is what causes endometriosis. This is what can cause infertility. This is what can cause with miscarriages. I worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Now we're lucky, we don't have to worry about that, but we still have to keep those hormones in balance. That's really, really important. And they need to be bioidentical, because if you go into the chemical, what's happening is they're changing the cellular structure, and now it's foreign. And it does have a lot of risk. And there's tons of research out there. And if you see me afterwards, I can give you some, if you want to know some good information, where to go and some books and stuff, I can get you some good info on that. Okay, any other quick questions on, oh, the men are so quiet. We're not discussing testosterone at all. Yes.
If you're high to low in testosterone, should you go ahead and get?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer if your testosterone level is low. Now, if you've had any serious prostate issues, you need to check with somebody who knows what they're doing. Not all doctors understand bioidentical, but one of the biggest things is it's going to weaken your muscles. It's going to put you at a high risk for osteoporosis. You ready for this? It's going to put you at a higher risk for Alzheimer's, and it's going to put you at a much higher risk for heart. They are way more important than you think.
Taking testosterone.
Yes, no, having low testosterone. Low testosterone not only affects your bones with osteoporosis, it affects your heart, it affects your brain, it affects your muscles. And remember how I said your core is so important? We don't want to fall. We want to be able to stay as strong as we physically can and do as many things as we can to change that. So, okay, any other questions? I know you're all afraid to ask.
No,
Especially after I told him he'd decorate her house, but their house is decorated quite nicely. But I never asked who did it. You did it, okay. Yes.
So if a man gets it tested and it says it's in the normal level, can he be sure that a normal doctor's test in the normal level means it's normal? Do you know what I'm asking?
Most of the time. She was
Okay.
asking about, is the testing fairly accurate? Yes, it's a little harder to read the labs, and I will be honest with you, it's not studied in med school very much at all. So it's often just kind of glossed over, you know?
Okay.
They just kind of do what I call doc in the box stuff. This is what we do, this is what we give, this is how we do it, you know? Yes.
I thought I was gonna go home tonight and know what causes prostate cancer in people our age more often. You all said to tell us, and then I must have taken a nap.
Having higher estrogen in your body than you do in testosterone puts you at a high risk. Because if estrogen creates cellular proliferation, what is the simple term for cancer? Unstopped cellular proliferation, okay? So if that's what the estrogens do and the progesterone balances that, it's a big deal. Now, I also have to take DHEA and I take pregnenolone, again, because I do everything I can because of my genetics. So I follow, I'm really following his protocol, very, very closely. You may not have to do that, but bioidenticals is a very smart thing for anybody. Osteoporosis it's not funny. It's very serious. I mean, you think, well, my bones are weak. No, it's not good. This is not good. At our age, do you know how many people do not recover from a broken hip? It's pretty high. It's pretty high. They just don't heal well either. So your hormones, when you go to your physician, say, I want a hormone panel. And he may say, why? And you could say, this crazy lady with auburn hair told me I needed one. And that's not going to probably cut it. But just say, I want a hormone panel. And when you get hormones, you tell them, I only want to take bioidentical. Why would you take chemical? It has side effects. Absolute side effects. Do you know how many of us were put on Premarin? Won't even go there. I don't even want to go there. It's the risk for our cancer for us was because it is a chemical, has lots and lots, actually has 99 chemicals in it. Okay, so we did hormones. Afterwards, I will really help with any individual questions, but I only have 15 minutes. So we talked about supplements. And in the book, The End of Alzheimer's, he really goes in heavily to the supplements. I could be another hour on that. But let me just give you a few tips that are really important. Number one, if you have cancer or at a high risk for cancer or Alzheimer's, do you know what vitamin is the lowest in you across the board? Vitamin D. Vitamin D. They check people with cancer and they start looking at their vitamin D levels. I mean, we think osteoporosis. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's huge. But we're talking cancer and Alzheimer's, and across the board, it's low in D. Now, if you're not one who's good at changes, could you start on that this month? It's a little itty-bitty thing. I mean, it's tiny little pill, and for Pete's sake, if you have enough spit, you can swallow without water. It's not like a big fat, thing, huh? D3, yes. And then I'm going to probably blow your mind with D3. It's inexpensive. For example, I get a lot of my supplements through Life Extension because I love their research and I love their quality. There are some maybe that are a little better, but they're very expensive. So if you're on a tight budget, and I do not have a dog in that fight, as we say in Tennessee, so I don't get anything from them. But when they run sales, their sales are fabulous. But D3 you can get anywhere from $7 to probably $12. It's very inexpensive. It's easy. If somebody says, I just don't take supplements, for Pete's sakes, get your spit up together and take a D3. Now here's where I'm going to blow you away. What the medical community and the government has said is that you probably should have 1,000 IUs of D, and they are totally wrong. As a matter of fact, I got very upset with the research that came out a couple years ago, and it said, okay, we did the test on Ds, they're wrong, everybody thinks it helps, it's not effective, that's what the research says. So what I have learned to do, because I did so much research with bioidenticals, is I follow the money, honey. I want to know who paid for the research. Yeah. And that tells me a whole lot, a lot. And when I looked at the amount that they did, I went, oh, they're right. You take that amount of D, it's just not enough. Now here's the problem. You think, okay, we live in Florida, so we have all this sun, and we should be able to get it from that. Probably, if you're going to do that, you need to do it between 10 and 11 because of the direction of the way the sun hits you, and you need to do it nude, a little hard in the villages, with your neighbor spitball away from you, and ready to call and put you on the front of the daily sun. So that's probably not the most effective, and then we're not counting if you get burnt because we're getting a lot of rays we've never had before because of the environment. So I'm not telling you not to go in the sun, but no, I do not have. I swallowed spit, I promise. All I did was swallow spit. So you really should be taking 5,000 IUs. We do not absorb D at all as we get older. I have been taking 10,000 IUs because, and another thing, you were talking about the hormones, I want you to say, I want my want to know what my D is. Now, they have a normal range. Ignore it. Yeah, ignore it. I thought, are you kidding me? If I had previously had cancer, if I was concerned about my head, if I was concerned about my heart, I am here to tell you I want mine at a higher range. Because everything you go through and you look at all the stuff, it's always on the low end of the spectrum. And especially when it comes to Alzheimer's, cancer, and heart, you don't want to be on this, oh, well, it's 10 to 20 and I'm a 10, so that's good. No. Now, maybe in some things it is, but it certainly isn't on D3. So I take 10,000 because for whatever reason, I don't absorb as much. And then I've been using my beamer a little differently, which helps me absorb. And so now I'm doing 5,000 one day, 10, 5, 10, and kind of alternating. And for the first time, my D is really coming up. But when you look across the board with cancer, and especially the head, D is low. It's cheap, people. It's easy. Swallow it with your spit if you don't like to take anything. And that's something you could do this month. And it's not gonna break your budget. I wouldn't do over 10,000 unless you really know what you're doing. I'm at high risk. I know what my levels are because I have those tested all the time. So I know what my levels are, and that's kind of how I know to adjust it. Okay, so we talked about supplements. I really want to, I have 9 minutes. Okay, so, because I don't want to keep you here all night. But we're going to talk briefly because this is why some of you have said, why do you have food? I want to show you physically and let you taste that you can eat good food and it tastes pretty good. Is everything back there edible to you all? Did any of you go, ugh? Well, you might have if you didn't like olives. But outside of that, you can eat healthy. You really can eat healthy and go gluten-free. And I don't have to tell you that gluten is a major, major, major issue with Alzheimer's, with any kind of stomach issues, if you have ever been diagnosed with any autoimmune diseases, because the wheat we eat today is not the wheat that our grandparents ate. It's a big, huge difference. It's been GMO'd and GMO'd again and GMO'd again, and it literally is like glue in your body. It just absolutely, if you could do nothing else, and I'll tell you, I'm going to be honest with you, when I read I had to go gluten-free, I was freaking out. I told you, I'm Swiss German. I have a dough belly. You know, I grew up with noodles and dumplings and bread, and you know, it's like, don't take away my bread. I mean, I would eat bread over meat, right? Especially if it's good bread. I don't eat the garbage stuff you buy. But I always made my own bread. I ground all my own grains. It was really tough. It took me, and I'm being honest with you, it took me 4 flippin' months to totally go gluten-free. Because, being German, we don't throw things out. So all the food there, you don't have to worry about cleanliness. I'm pretty OCD when it comes to my kitchen and cooking. So, trust me, way better than a restaurant you are in. So, the whole idea of throwing things out, I couldn't rationalize that. So I gave some things away to food pantries, but to be honest, and it just slowly, I just kind of kept doing it. And the truth is, my grandkids have no idea they're eating gluten-free cookies. They have no idea. My company has no idea they're eating gluten-free bread. I do gluten-free pasta. If you make a good enough sauce, you can't tell the difference. My husband eats gluten-free pancakes, muffins, the whole 9 yards. And Bev back there at the very back with also the white hair. Yeah, she sees me pointing at her. She's a fabulous gluten-free cook. She had to do that because she actually had some, you know, most of the time you'd think of gluten-free with celiac, right? Which is a very small percentage, and they don't have a choice. They absolutely don't have a choice. But most of us, believe it or not, we are gluten sensitive. So it took me 4 months, and now I've realized this isn't hard. I make brownies. I just use Swerve instead of sugar, and I use almond flour instead of regular flour. And everybody loves my brownies. And I'm going to a social in our group, and they all know I'm going to bring gluten-free food, and then they always say, wow, this tastes like real food. And I'm like, yes. So we wanted you to see, and by the way, nobody can leave tonight till the food is gone, because we really don't want to have to cart it back. But we wanted to do that during this series for you, to let you see that you really can eat and really have good food. And we felt that was really important. 85% people, right here, 85% of all disease, right here in your gut. The gut-brain connection is so real, it's unbelievable. And you know that instinctively. And here's how you know it instinctively. Have any of you had, like, we all have, something awful happen? Either something you did, or an accident, or a death, or something you got a call from the IRS, or something that's just really upset you, right? You notice I put death and IRS in the same, okay. So what happens when you get really awful news? Where do you feel it?
In the guts.
You feel it in the gut. You don't feel it in the brain. It's all here. Don't you get almost sick inside? I mean, you get sick. The stress level is unbelievable. You can get diarrhea. You can get constipation. You can't hardly eat. You can get heartburn. That brain connection is so real. That's how you physically, or emotionally maybe I should say, know what a strong connection that is. The one thing, if I could teach you nothing else at all, is to try to keep your microbiomes, that's all of the bacteria and fungus, and yes, fungus, you have good fungus, good bacteria, bad bacteria. You want to keep it as healthy as you can, because what you do here is what's going to absolutely go straight to your brain. Their connection is just unbelievable. It's so important. So you're not going to probably make changes overnight, and I don't expect you to, and I would not think any differently. But what if you could just make some small changes? What I've taught my grandchildren, much to their parents' dismay, is that when you buy groceries, if 90% is not on the perimeter of the grocery store, you have a problem. Never should it be more than 10% in the middle, ever. Now, we're going to do something exciting. I believe it's going to be in September, and I'm going to bring a man here locally who owns a vertigrow. Does anybody know what that is? A vertical garden? So I'm really excited because I'm going to bring him and have him show you. Because if you're on a tight budget, or you just don't want to spend a ridiculous amount of money on organic things, you can grow them. But I moved here, and this is sand. This is like not, I mean, I grew up in Northern Ohio where it was black dirt, right? I still haven't found a tomato that I'll hardly eat except for what I grow. So I have, and I live in a villa. So it's not like I have a lot of space. I have what's called a vertigrow. It's all hydroponic. I have my kale, my lettuce. I have 2 different kinds of lettuce. My spinach. I grow tomatoes. I grow my peppers. I have my whole little garden. I don't have to weed. It's an automatic watering system. I don't have to water. I don't have to weed. Here's what's really cool. How many of you bought lettuce and in 4 days you are fit to be tied because it's already started going bad in the fridge? Right? Look at the hands up. We all see it. I can keep mine for, I'm not kidding, 2 weeks. It's unbelievable how long it stays fresh and good. So I'm really excited to bring that to you when we start back up in the fall, because organic vegetables, how many of you know you just look at the prices and do you not, is it just me? I just shake my head. I'm like, are you kidding? And I'm growing strawberries in the fall, because one of the things you're going to get is the Dirty Dozen. So if you want to know what the Dirty Dozen is, it's not the movie that we all remember, okay? The Dirty Dozen are the highest plants and fruits and vegetables that have the most pesticide on it. And yes, it affects your brain as well as your gut. Does anybody know what the top one is? Strawberries. Have you priced, or unless you're lucky to get in at Aldi before they sell out, have you priced organic strawberries? The last ones I bought for here were $7 for a container. A that was not a big container. $7. So in the fall, you can't grow them here in this time of year, it's just too hot. But you start in the fall, and that's one of the things he's gonna do, and you can grow your own, strawberries. Spinach. How many of you know that spinach is way up there? So I buy organic spinach. So if you wanna know what they are, go online to your Chrome. I don't know if I can remember them all. She may be able to. She's like shaking her head. I can remember some of them, but all you do is go on Chrome or wherever you go, Google, whatever, and then put in Dirty Dozen, and the movie may come up, so you may have to put Dirty Dozen vegetables or fruit or whatever. It will come up and it will give you the list. And we're gonna hand that out to everybody because everybody should have it. And it helps you to know, what can I avoid? Like you don't have to do organic avocados. You don't have to do organic bananas. There are some things that have enough covering on them. And if you really don't have the money and you wanna do it, there are some excellent vegetable washes that you can use that will take off not everything, but a lot. So when I'm working with very low income, I show them exactly how they can do it. Better than nothing. They'll take off about 75%. Not great, but yes.
Can you tell us which washes those are?
Yes. My head is going into the label, and I'm looking at the label. You know how it is? It's like, you pay attention to streets, you just know you turn at the fire station. And I know what my label looks like. Can we put it on the Facebook?
What was the question?
I'm sorry, the question was, what's the label that I use for what you can clean vegetables and fruit with? That's the most effective. We have a Facebook, and Carl will tell you what it is, and we have it posted there. We'll have it posted there, yes.
Talking about gluten-free.
Yes.
Is gluten-free good for someone who has, and a lot of people do have the acid reflux?
Yes, yes. Look, I'm not trying to get personal and embarrass you, but my husband and I both have had we've had the same thing go away. As you get older, most of you know, I'm not trying to embarrass you, but when you're in a medical house, you discuss body parts. So I don't think anything about it, but most people when we get older have a lot of flatulence. That's a fancy word for gas, okay? Because our stomach and intestines are not working as well as they should. Without anything being changed, all of a sudden, my husband and I do not have gas, which is really nice if you're sitting in the front row at church. Okay? Because then people want to pray for you. Or pray you will not sit in the front anymore and that you'll sit in the back. Okay, so yes, it really affects digestion, bloating. Occasionally I would have bloating, do not have the bloating anymore. He doesn't have the bloating. I had more than he did.
What
So-
did you change?
No, we didn't change anything except for gluten-free. Yeah, just going gluten-free, we don't have the gas, we don't have the bloating. We've noticed a much better bowel movements. That's called the poo report. Okay, so yes.
Just real quick, to buy a supplement at the drugstore or something, my daughter calls it, she says, you don't buy anything with a lot of junk in it.
And she's correct. She's talking about supplements and how do you know what to buy.
Yes.
So one of the reasons I mentioned Life Extension is because their prices are good.
Where are they?
Online.
Oh.
And their prices are good. When they run sales, I stock up. I'll buy 6 months worth. I do use some other things besides that. But the truth is, the best supplements are physician grade. But you're going to pay a lot more money. They are more absorbable. And they have less things in them. So people say, well, I just go to Walmart or, I just pick out my supplements. Your D is okay, not your other stuff. If it is heat pressed, it's killing all the good stuff, and what it's going to do is it's going to go right through you, and you can just kiss that money goodbye. It's not going to work. If you're not absorbing it, and how do you know you're absorbing? This is one of the tests you want to ask your physician the next time you have lab work. I want to know what I'm absorbing, and it makes a really big difference. If you're not absorbing it, what good does it do? It doesn't. So why spend, I mean, you might spend $10, but if I spend 20, I'm getting a great effect, and at 10, I'm getting zero, nothing. Yes?
What about turmeric for inflammation?
Turmeric is wonderful. I do take turmeric. And it's also one of the things he mentions. In the book, he tells you all the supplements, he breaks everything down.
How much of it?
He tells you exactly, if it's a brain issue, he tells you exactly how much. But turmeric is wonderful. I use it in food, but I also take it as a supplement. And it's good for cancer, heart, and Alzheimer's, and other things, but very specifically for those two
What about
things.
fish oil?
Fish oil, absolutely. How many, you remember all the years, it's like, don't eat fat, don't eat fat, don't eat fat. You know, get your carbs up. I'm gonna tell you right now, you wanna know what's gonna kill you? None of you wanna hear it. Sugar. Sugar is the killer. Fat was never the killer. Sugar will kill your heart, it will kill your brain, it will kill everything in your body. Unbelievable. And it will make you fat. Period. Not fat. Not fat. Fat will not make you fat. Good fat will not make you fat. And it will keep you filled. Yes?
What book were you talking about?
The Alzheimer book, The End of Alzheimer's. We do have a few copies back there. And anybody who wants the detail, it's all in there. Very, very detailed. Plus, your notes are gonna have a lot. Those of you who got the notebook, you have a lot of stuff in there. Not as much as the book, but you do have a lot of stuff and it's in there. Yes?
Can you bring next time gluten-free brownies?
For you, I'll bring gluten-free. But they will have nuts in them. I have to have them with
But
them.
another question, you recommended a change every month. Can you make a list of those changes that we can?
Well, it just, if you go through and just decide, it's gonna be different for everybody. So the D3 is like an easy one, right? Buying a zero water, that's pretty inexpensive regardless of what your budget is. That's a pretty easy thing to do. But if every month you just started to do a little bit more, when in a year you would be absolutely amazed at the amount of change. And you won't feel it. If you just do one little thing a month, you won't feel it. So this you gotta take care of. This is so important.
What about when you said, we all know that sugar is bad, and I'm addicted to sugar, that's my problem.
Everybody's addicted to sugar.
So people go on this keto diet. Now, they pull out the sugar and they're eating the fat.
Right.
How good is that for your arteries and for
It's
your
wonderful.
Honey.
Good fat is wonderful. I have avocado every day, nuts, yes.
But they're using other fats too. They're eating steak
I
and
don't-
bacon and
yeah.
all that other stuff.
I'm a little, you need good fat, but keto, the real keto has a little more. What I love is what he recommends is Keto Flex. And from a nutritionist standpoint, because I've studied nutrition a lot, that to me is the best of both worlds. So he calls it Keto Flex. And so you're not consuming quite as much fat, but you are consuming good fat. If your brain does not get fat, if you're on low fat, I'm telling you that is a disaster for your brain. Your brain, that's where it pulls its energy from, is fat. And your heart and cancer, all three. Very fast, I'm gonna just tell you something you probably don't know. Do you ever wonder what's the difference between corn syrup and sugar? Because we hear that all the time. Well, people think it's not. They think corn syrup is worse than sugar. Actually, there's only a 5% difference. They really are. One is just almost as bad as the other. But here's what happens, and so people don't understand what sugar does. And this is what I tell diabetic groups. So what happens is, when you consume sugar or corn syrup, it has both fructose. Don't think of that about your fruit. There's a difference, I'll tell you. It has both fructose and sucrose. Okay, everybody got that? Okay, the problem is that it doesn't work together. That's what causes the problem. So what happens is the sucrose can give you that energy you need in your cells, right? it can't do that with the fructose. So what happens with the fructose? Well, if it can't be absorbed and used as energy, it goes to the liver. How many of you have been told you have a fatty liver? Do you know that it's absolutely epidemic now? And it's because the sugar, if you smoke, did you know there's sugar in your cigarettes? Did you know it's in your toothpaste? Did you notice it's in a lot of vitamins?
Ketchup has more sugar.
Ketchup has tremendous sugar. I do organic, sugar-free ketchup. I used to can my own when I was young and stupid. So, yeah, I canned everything. So, sugar, what happens, so if the liver can't metabolize it, it's going to send it to fat cells. You want to get rid of your belly, you get off of sugar. But do it a little at a time. I use Swerve when I bake. I don't bake a lot, but I have a husband who has a real sweet tooth. And so when I bake, I like Swerve. It is very, very low in glycemic and it's easy. But when I want to just sweeten something, I use stevia. So I use a lot of stevia. I've just never been able to bake well with stevia. I screw it up. The chemical thing is not the same, where Swerve is like the same, and I use a little bit less. Swerve, S-W-E-R-V-E, it's an excellent sugar substitute. So if you like, but I love sweet, okay, start to just slowly drop down. But when you switch to Swerve, you still have the sweet taste, but at least you don't have the glycemic where it's just not as absorbing. So slowly but surely just start to eliminate your sugar. Sugar will kill your brain, it'll kill your body, it'll give you cancer, heart, I mean across the board. It's awful, huh? Yeah, it's a form of that. Some erythritol I don't like as well as others. A lot of people will say, what about Splenda? I don't like Splenda at all because I don't like the they chlorinate it and I don't like the way it's processed. Honey actually still has a glycemic. I use some honey, but you do need, it doesn't have quite the bad molecule of the fructose and the sucrose, but it still will take your blood sugar up, glycemic wise. Yes.
Was the special you're talking about for Dr.
Oh, yes, and some people have left. Okay, so most of you have heard Dr. Kasha. So he called me last night, and he mentioned this once before. He has the most incredible, unique, never in this country, I believe he is only the second, maybe the second in Florida and only one other doctor in California at this point. It is a new eye exam. And of course, you all know, if those of you have heard him, he's a retinal specialist. One of the top, literally on the East Coast. He's phenomenal and very, very integrative and very into holistic. But this eye exam does everything. Nothing, no eye exam you have, even from your ophthalmologist or retinal specialist, does this. It is, I think he told me, it's just a matter of a few seconds. It's that fast. But it's new technology that literally can tell you everything, and your eyes tell you a whole lot about what's going on in your brain. A whole lot. It is either, most doctors are charging $200 to $250. He said if we can get 75 people to do this, and it's really super fast, they will pick up the majority of the cost, and it will cost you $50. That's it. And I'm telling you, it does everything. It does everything way beyond any eye exam out there. It's used in Europe, but it has not come to this country yet. He and I believe there's just one other doctor in Naples, and I believe one in California who has it.
What is this called?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I got so excited about what he said, I forgot to ask him. But I just want to remind you, back in the back, we do have some books. We have some information if you need it on the Beamer, which is the medical device. If you're not on our email list, all we do is send you out once a month. And if you've not gotten an email and you put on the list, please let them know and we'll write that down. We send once out to let you know the speaker. You don't have to worry, it won't be me. We'll have actually medical people who really have credentials. Then we give you a notice 5 days ahead. anywhere from 4 to 5 days ahead, just reminding you about it. That's it. We don't sell it to anybody.
So is there gonna be a sign-up list for the 75 people in order to facilitate?
Yes, so I have a list back there. If you're interested in doing the eye, if it's a couple, you would put down for 2. My husband and I are gonna do it. I think we could pull 75 people. $50, and it does everything.
How many people here would put their hands up?
Yeah, who would not for $50? I'm telling you, they charge $250 for this test. I don't know what he's gonna charge,
Are you sure
but
he
he's
wants
done
us?
it. Yeah, he's doing it for the Health and Wellness Club. So, I don't think he's offering that to anybody else.
So we sign up and away out.
Yeah, so there is the sign up for the eyes. And also, we do offer for the medical device, if you are interested, we do 5 complimentary, no obligation demos, and we mean that when we say it, just to allow you to experience what this does. I have several people in here who do have Beamers and have had absolutely incredible results besides myself. So,
How many people here have a Beamer?
oh my gosh,
Look around.
I had no idea we had that many.
Yeah, they-
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, it'll change your life. It's an amazing, amazing device. Any other questions? And I'm also, if you have individual things, I'll catch you. I am willing to go back. There's one back there. You can actually get on it tonight.
What does it cost to purchase a Beamer?
The Beamers are $5,995. That's why when I purchased it, my husband said, can I quote what he said? That damn thing better walk on water. And then it does walk on water. I would sell my car, I would do whatever. I look at it this way, last year, I had 3 crowns, cost me $6,000. If you get anybody here ever have stem cell? It helps one area of your body, starts at $6,000–7,000. And I'm not knocking that, but this does everything in your body. I'm not joking when I tell
Raise
you.
your oxygen level?
30%, 24 hours a day. That's why I have so much energy. I'm 72 and I am not exaggerating. I feel like I'm 50. I am terrifying my children. I love it. Isn't that's awful, isn't it? I love it. Absolutely love it. So you can, if you want to sign up for our demos, we do have that. If you want to sign up for the eyes, please go back. The first 75 people. I don't know that he can do more than 75, but it's a real fast. It'll be at his office, and we'll get back with all of you with the details. It'll be in April. He's on off of 441 right across from the hospital.
Is it for anybody's eyes or
Anybody's
have
eyes.
retinas?
No, it's not about retinas. It's anybody's. He can tell you where you are, and it will tell you even what your risk is going to be down the road. I mean, it's amazing.